One of the reasons that the United States is collapsing and has been collapsing for about 20 years is economic collapse, and that's the biggest reason. But there is a second reason. And I've written about both these reasons in my blogs quite a bit, economic collapse and this secondary reason, which is cultural collapse. And I am about to show you a picture-perfect example of what this cultural collapse looks like and why it's a problem. And the example I'm going to use is the very recently released animated superhero for adults TV show, Invincible.
Alpha Male 2.0. Freedom-focused lifestyle design for men. We do 5 videos a week here on how to make both your business life and woman life more free, because you need both. If you subscribe to this channel, leave a like on this video, and leave a comment on this video, you will automatically be entered into the regular drawing for my online video course on how to create location-independent income, normally $1,400. We regularly announce the winners at the community feed at this channel.
So I'm not a big superhero guy, but I like the Marvel movies, and I heard about this show Invincible, which is based on a comic from about 15 years ago, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I heard it was violent. I'm like, oh, cool, I like violence. Violence is great. I mean, Quentin Tarantino said the reason they invented the movie camera was so that we could watch violent acts on the big screen. I totally agree, great. And unfortunately, the violent parts of the show, it's on Amazon Prime, are the only good parts of the show. And I'm about to describe for you a scene from that show within the first 15 minutes of the first episode. And I'm gonna describe this scene exactly how it plays out. I'm not gonna exaggerate it. I'm not gonna make anything up. It's gonna sound like I'm making it up if you haven't seen the show, but this is the scene. Now, before I get into this, before I say what I'm about to say, a percentage of you are gonna assume that I'm some kind of right-wing, conservative, Christian, Donald Trump guy. Let me be very clear. I've been clear about this 1,000 times. I'll be clear about it again. I am not. I do not vote for Republicans. I think Donald Trump is probably the second worst president in modern American history because of all the trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars he increased spending by in the government. Donald Trump supporters are fundamentally irrational, as I have shown many, many, many times. So if your attitude after I describe what I'm about to describe is just, oh, well, this guy's a right-wing conservative, wrong-o, and you are incapable of critical thinking. Please stay out of the 2 little boxes that you were trained to inhabit, the right-wing box or the left-wing box, especially these days when both those boxes are wrong. Okay, so here's the scene. And again, this is exactly how the scene plays out. And if you don't believe me, you are free to go to Amazon Prime, if you have that, and go watch it. And you'll see I'm not exaggerating. So the scene is the main character, the protagonist of the story. He is an extreme beta male. He's a timid pussy beta, of course. And he's in high school, and he's going through his locker, and he's talking to his best friend. His best friend is an openly effeminate gay guy. This is his best friend. And the topic of the conversation is that the gay best friend is telling the beta male how much he thinks his dad is hot and how he wants to hook up with his dad. Well, it gets worse. Stick with me. So then they hear a commotion down the hall. And the commotion down the hall is this big, strong, tough guy, and he's bullying somebody. Of course, the alpha male is always portrayed as someone evil and horrible. This is one of those shows that follows the standard Hollywood system of every male character is either an asshole or a villain, which is true with this show. All right, so this big evil bully is bullying a girl. Not just any girl, she's a black girl. Not just a black girl, she's a feminist. And they actually say this later in the show. She is a 4th wave feminist. So the big evil white alpha male is bullying the female black feminist. And the beta male protagonist looks there, and of course, the female black feminist is the girl in high school he has a crush on. Of course. So he says, I'm gonna go save that girl. So he gets up and he goes to the bully and says, hey, bully, leave her alone, you big bully. Fuck you. And the bully turns around and beats the shit out of him. And he knocks him on the floor. He's bleeding on the floor. The bully's about to finish him off. And the female black feminist beats up the bully and saves the protagonist. She comes up behind him and kicks him in the balls. Now just imagine if the genders were reversed. Will you ever see a scene where a woman goes up and kicks a woman in the vag? Can you imagine? No. So she kicks the bully in the balls and defeats the bully, saves the male protagonist. The bully runs away, of course. The beta male's on the ground bleeding, and she goes, thanks, and she walks off. And he's sitting there bleeding on the floor with his gay best friend looking on. Now, let me repeat one more time. If you think I'm some kind of right-wing conservative, no. I think all drugs should be legalized. I'm here on this channel teaching non-monogamous lifestyles. I'm against traditional marriage. Does that sound right-wing to you? So again, if you're going to jump into your little right or left-wing box, you fucked all this up. Now, I talked about back in 2017 why I stopped watching movies. And the reason I stopped watching movies, even though that was a big, big part of my life for all of my life since I was a small child up until 2017, was because the United States has now lost their ability to create good movies and good TV shows. I've written about that as well. And one of the many reasons for this, it's not the only reason, but one of the reasons is that Hollywood has become today a mirror image of what it used to be back in the 40s. Today, Hollywood has become this hard left, SJW, woke thing that presents a world in a very, very hard left light that doesn't actually reflect the real world. Just like back in the 40s, Hollywood reflected a very hard right-wing conservative viewpoint that, again, really didn't reflect most of the real world. Some of the real world in both cases, but not most of it. And that's one of the reasons that Hollywood can't create good movies or TV shows anymore. It's one of the reasons I stopped watching this kind of stuff a long time ago. Even when I started watching this show, I was kind of concerned. I'm like, okay, this might suck. And I was right. By the way, it gets worse. There's 4 episodes up on Amazon. I watched all 4. And the only reason I took the time to watch all 4 is because I was on a plane, a long international flight. I'm in Paraguay right now. And that's the only time I bother to watch TV shows or movies these days. When I'm on a long international flight, I have no internet, and I'm too tired to work. That's it. Otherwise, I would have watched it. But it's not just that scene. The beta male is also a hardcore left-winger. So the beta male goes to this guy and says, I want to be a superhero. And the guy says, oh, you want to be a superhero? You want to, defeat the bad guys and win the day and get the pretty girl. And the beta male protagonist says, that's sexist. There's a scene where the beta male starts to date the black girl who under normal conditions would never date him, but because of Hollywood plotting rules, she has to like him, so they start dating. So the beta male goes home to his mom and dad, and he tells them that he has a date with this girl, and the mom says, oh, what are you guys gonna go do? And he goes, I don't know, she's deciding exactly what we're gonna go do. And he kind of looks down like this. Then the mom says, oh, a take charge girl. I like that. That's the kind of woman you need to date, you little beta male bitch. And the dad is standing right next to her, just kind of silently going, mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is the picture of Hollywood. Now, let me tell you why this is a problem. I'm not a right-wing conservative. I'm not going to sit here and bitch about, oh, this is so terrible, SJWs are bad. No. In any large group of people, you're going to have far left people, and those people are fine. Some of my best friends are left-wingers. That's fine. I come from Portland, Oregon. That's left-wing haven over there. So a lot of people in my life are hardcore leftists. That's fine with me. And in any large group of people, you're going to have some hardcore right-wing nationalist type people too. Nothing wrong with those guys either. That's fine. The problem is when you have art that is only centered in this very narrow segment of one of those two things. So problem number 1 is this scene from this show and the other left-wing scenes in this show did not come out of a novel. A novel is written by one guy, so that would be different. No, this is an animated TV show for a major network. Amazon Prime's a major player now. So that means this scene went through writers, editors, producers, directors, animators, executive producers, and I promise, I would bet $10,000 of my own money that not one person in authority saw this scene and went, whoa, guys, I mean, okay, I got it, but can we back off on the left-wing stuff just a little bit? I mean, we're going to alienate 30, 40, 50% of our audience who we want to give us their money. So maybe we should back off a little bit on this shit. I promise you that didn't happen. I promise you that everyone in power just saw that scene and went, okay, cool. Because that's the world they live in. Maybe you had an animator who was a secret Trump supporter who was animating this shit. It's like, oh my God, what the hell? Oh, well, better animate this. I need a paycheck. Maybe that happened, but that's the worst that happened. And that's the problem. It's all coming from one voice. Years prior, before the mid-1990s, when Hollywood would put out a TV show or a movie, there were rare exceptions, but they were rare. People had political agendas. Directors, writers, screenwriters, producers had political agendas, but you couldn't tell what they were because they didn't put them in their movies. They didn't put them in their TV shows. They didn't shove them in your face. Today they do. Today this is now a cultural norm. As I've talked about many times, the United States is a left-wing country and it continues to get more left every year. Well, how do you explain Trump? As I've talked about 1,000 times, only 24% of the United States voted for Donald Trump, or so, and about 20% of those people didn't even like Trump. They said he wasn't qualified. They just voted for him because they hated Hillary so much. So you got to get off this what about Trump stuff. Socialism is now more popular after Trump than it was before Trump. Government is bigger and more powerful now after Trump, thanks Trump supporters, than before Trump. So that's not it. The United States will continue to move to the political left and the cultural left every year, regardless of who you vote for. This is the new norm. That's problem number one. Problem number two, and this is the bigger problem. Problem number two is the vast majority, maybe not the vast majority, certainly the majority, more than 50% of people who watched this scene did not recognize any of the left-wing shit that I just pointed out to you. They didn't recognize it. It just went right into their subconscious. They just went, okay, what does that mean when you watch something on TV or a movie or a conversation and you don't really pay attention to the context and it goes right into your subconscious? What have I talked about ad infinitum in my books, my blogs? Societal programming. So more than 50% of people watching the scene, it went right into their subconscious. Oh, okay, guys in high school have gay best friends who want to fuck their dads. Okay. Oh, okay, there are black fourth wave feminists in high school. That's a common thing. Oh, big strong white guys are assholes. Okay. It completely bypassed their conscious mind and went right into their subconscious because they weren't even aware of that. Multiply that by 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 by watching movies, TV shows, the news, stuff on the internet, what have you. This gets worse. And this is why this gets worse. Because people don't recognize what's actually going into the subconscious. In my primary book, The Unchained Man, I have an entire chapter on societal programming and examples of this. Examples from movies and TV shows where you're not really paying attention. You're just focused on the spectacle and you don't see the political agenda that's being shoved into your subconscious when you're not paying attention. And I promise you, the vast majority of people watching this superhero show were not paying attention to this. Some did, some I'm sure noticed. And frankly, to be honest, and this is kind of sad, I'm betting the vast majority of people who noticed this were hardcore anti-SJW Trump drones who are hypersensitive to this shit anyway. Very few rational, calm people, people who are objective like me, were seeing this and identifying this because most people aren't rational or objective. You need to be aware of this. You have to be aware of the conditioning that is in every TV show, not every TV show. The vast majority of today's TV shows, movies, news coverage, education, all this stuff, your family, your friends, your parents, that's what societal programming is. Now, if you are a hardcore SJW woke left-winger, then fine, you won. You already won about 10 years ago when you defeated the conservatives in the culture war. So you got your way, you're good. But if you're not a hard left-winger, you need to be aware of this stuff because you're going to see more of it and more of it and more of it and more of it unless you've done what I've done and you've cut off most movies and the vast majority of TV shows from your diet, which I did back in 2017. And to be honest, I haven't been happier. It's been very nice not paying attention to this stuff. That's why every time I try to see a TV show or movie, I see this junk and I go, well, there we go. There we go again. This is why America is collapsing. This is the world that Americans have built. And not just America, but the collapsing trifecta, Canada, Europe, etc. And as I've talked about before, I've moved out of the United States. I don't really care anymore. I mean, America has its own set of problems. I don't really consider myself an American. I wonder why at this point. But just be aware of these things. Don't just blindly watch stuff without being aware of the programming that's being wired into you. By the way, that applies to right-wing programming too. What very little of it is out there in the pop culture, but there's a lot of that bullshit on the internet too. There's a lot of bullshit right-wing stuff on the internet. You gotta be aware of that stuff too. Be aware of all of it. Stay rational, stay objective. If you need more help managing your life like this, you can go to joinsmic.com. That is my audio training and mentorship program. It's a monthly program. Or if you like, you can click this video here on 11 countries you can move to if you're tired of the US like I did. Or just to show you that I'm not a Trump worshiper, you can click this video here where I refute all the arguments made by Trump supporters when Trump lost the election. I will see you in the next video. Have fun. Bye.